Hey yogi friends, thanks for being here to practice with me today. We're going to really show some attention and love to the hips today. So I want to start out here in our easy seat. Draw attention to the breath, the body, close the eyes. Really focus on the depth and pacing of the breath. Let's take one big belly breath, really filling the abdomen up. And fully exhaling, drawing that belly button into the spine to press all that exhale out. Let's do this once more. Noticing the spine, bringing it tall, lifting it from out of the pelvis, up through the mid-back and neck, up through the back of the crown. If you find this challenging and that there's a bit of curvature to the back where you're leaning the pelvis backward to help you sit, you can grab a towel or a blanket. I keep one behind my tailbone. It really helps me to keep the spine erect. So take a moment to do that. Having that erect spine helps us in so many ways with our posture and our alignment, not only here on the mat, but throughout our day. And then settling in here, we'll take one more big belly breath, and on the exhale, we'll chant Om together to open. Om. Just waking up that energy at the center of the body. Let's slowly open the eyes. And since we're going to be paying close attention to the hips today, let's start with a little rock from side to side. Some of you are real familiar with this move, this pendulum move. We want the only bend of the spine to be side to side. And let's lengthen one arm up over the shoulder. Think of lengthening tall first, lowering that shoulder away from the ear and then bending to the side. And press the hip on the same side where you have the extended arm. Press that hip into the mat, maybe even using some pressure, pushing off the mat from this hand that's on it. That helps to really lengthen out the side body from the fingertips up above all the way down to that hip on the side. Let's reverse that over onto the other side, lifting up first, up tall, and then over to the side, pressing that sit bone down on the side of the body where the arm is extended, same sits bone, and really extending from that hip all the way up through the fingertips. Think of lengthening up on an inhale and maybe slightly over further on the exhale. Really lengthening through that side body from hip to fingertip. And let's come back to center. We're going to pick up the pace on that just a little bit. Stretching through that arm and side body, keeping both sits bones grounded throughout this movement. One more on each side, and then we'll come to stillness at the center. Let's lengthen the arms up above the shoulders, bringing the fingertips right down in front of the front leg and bending from the hips just to look forward into a little pond there. Or a little puddle, maybe just trying to look for your reflection there. Imagine that's what we're doing, and we're lengthening up through the crown as we press those sits bones back and down. And then if you want to and your body will allow you today, you might walk the fingers just slightly forward and come a little deeper. Pay attention to your body and where it feels most intense. Again, no passing over from discomfort into pain. Discomfort means pay attention, and that's okay. A little discomfort, we just don't want it to cross into pain. That's the body saying, nope, not today. We need to back off and try something different. Or just try a little less intensity. Back it up a little bit. If you're quite flexible in the hips, you may be walking those hands out and bringing the forehead closer to the floor. But many of us carry a lot of tension in the hips. It comes from a combination of things, modern life, stress, but also the fact that we just do a lot of sitting in our daily life. We drive in cars, we sit at desks, we sit at the table when we eat. So there's a lot of sitting going on, and that can tighten up those hips too. So let's use the fingertips to walk back up. We're going to swap out the legs. Bring the opposite leg in front. Raise the arms up above the shoulders once again. Allow the shoulders to just relax away from the ears. And then bring those fingertips down in front of the front leg and foot. And then just gently bend from the hips forward. Now notice how different it feels in the front leg this time. You may feel this stretch in a completely different place on this leg. Walking the fingertips forward just slightly, lengthening through the crown, pressing through the sits bones once again. And if it is intense, imagine drawing the inhale into those most intense places and scooping up that tension with the breath and drawing it back out of the body on the exhale. Sometimes that imagery can let us really relax into the pose, even when it can feel intense. Remembering to breathe here, using the breath to allow you to relax into the pose. Close the eyes if that feels comfortable. Keep gazing into that little imaginary puddle or pond. It's your beautiful reflection. Now let's press the fingers to help us raise back up to seated. We're going to come from that seated position right into our tabletop position here. Fingers spread nice and wide. And we want to make spiders with the hands. So we're pressing into the fingertips and the pad of the thumb and the base of the hand so that the fingers are like spiders on the mat. There's a lot of air and space between the knuckles and the palm. And then really the only things touching the mat are the fingertips, the base of the palm, and the pad of the thumb. This helps to really release tension that can be concentrated in the wrists. If you still feel, well, it also helps to create some strength in the forearms. But if you just feel like the wrists are fussy and not liking this, make a fist with the hands and then put the weight of the fist or the weight of that front body and arm between the space between the top knuckle and the middle knuckle of the fingers. And then you can just let the thumb rest outside of the fist. This will allow you to have a lot less pressure in the wrists if they need that. Knees are directly under hips. Wrists are directly under elbows. Elbows directly under shoulders. Length from crown to tail, and draw the abdomen up toward the spine to support the low back. From here, we're going to bring the hips back toward the heels. Maybe they rest all the way on the heels. And bring the weight of the body forward, and you're on your forearms, okay? And then we're going to kind of arch the back so that the belly drops down. So this is a modified cow. And we're going to press into the base of the palms and come up into our cow, full cow, and then arch the back like a Halloween cat, drawing the navel to the spine. So we're doing a moving cat-cow here. This helps to kind of open the hips up a little bit, or at least get them warmed up. We're going to do some real opening of the hips later. But we're getting movement here. We're getting our spinal flexion. And we're building some strength in the arms. When we do come forward, we want to come onto the forearms and then keep those elbows really close to the body as you're pressing up in the base of the palms. And that's going to create strength in those upper arms. Let's do this once more, and we're just going to come back to a neutral tabletop. And from here, get that alignment just right again. Spider hands, knees directly below hips, feet directly behind knees. Draw the belly up, especially here because we're getting ready to do some balancing. We're going to lift the right foot so that the sole of the foot is facing the ceiling, and we draw the knee up. So we have a 90-degree bend in the knee, and the sole of the foot is facing the ceiling. Take one look here if you need to at that position. Now notice your hips. You want them to be parallel to the floor as much as possible, but we're going to begin moving, so that's going to change. Let's start making some circles with the hip. So we're moving that whole leg, but moving just from the hip and extending through the crown. So we're just making really, you decide how big you want these to be. Your body's going to tell you what works. And then let's reverse the direction of the circles. You're also using a lot of ab strength here, but really opening up those hips. And let's bring that knee to rest. Open the knees wide as the mat and bring the hips back to rest on the heels or close to the heels. You can always stick a block back there between the feet to let the hips rest on the block if that helps. Extending the hands forward. You may even walk the fingers forward a little bit more to really bring some stretch to that side body. You can rock the head from side to side on the forehead if you like. And let's also stretch the upper arms a little bit since we did some upper arm strengthening there. Allow the arms to rest down on the mat. Bend the elbows so that you can bring the palms and the fingers into prayer position right behind the back of the head. So elbows that are about close to a 90-degree angle, maybe even a little less than that. Palms can be right against one another or slightly parted. Fingertips and fingers and thumbs are against one another. Walk the elbows maybe an inch forward on the mat and press those elbows into the mat, and you will immediately feel some stretching in the upper back, the shoulders, maybe even the upper arms, back of the upper arms. And if you want to add a little more intensity to this, then open the palms and just press. Open the palms so much that all that's pressing against one another is fingertips to fingertips and pad of thumb to pad of thumb. And the more you press the hands away from each other, the more intense the stretch will be on the upper arms and shoulders. So you decide what level of intensity works for you today. And then to release that, you can bring the hands back into the prayer position, lengthen the arms back out in front again. Let's come back up to our tabletop. And we're going to do our hip circles on the other side. Get the foundation nice and sturdy first so you can be in good alignment. Hands spread wide, spider fingers, straight line from wrist to shoulder, straight line from crown to tail, lengthening out through the crown. Space between shoulders and ears, knees directly below hips, feet directly behind knees. Let's bend the knee, lift. This is the left leg we're working on now, lifting the sole of the left foot toward the ceiling. So we've got that 90-degree bend in the knee, and it's lifted up. If you need to rearrange hands or anything, now's the time to do it. Draw that belly up toward the spine, and then begin your hip circles. And again, make these as small or as large as your body tells you it needs today. Really getting things warmed up in the hips here. Let's reverse the direction. Keeping that belly button up towards spine. And then let's bring that knee back down. Spread the knees wide again. Bring the hips back toward the heels. Let's do that extended child's pose and just rest here and breathe for a moment. Noticing any sensations in the body, noticing any parts of the body that are sending us a particular message right now. Hearing that message, and let's honor what the body's telling us that it needs. At any point in practice, if you need to come back to this child's pose to relax, to refresh, you go right ahead and do that. Let's come back up to our tabletop, and we're going to do some circles in the hips here. This is another moving cat-cow type of thing, but we're not going to really bow down into a cow. We're going to keep the back a little straighter, but we are going to press the hips out to one side and then bring the hips toward the heels, crossing the heels, and then press the hip out to the other side. So these are big hip circles with knees on the ground. And we're just moving the weight of the body forward and back from the hands back to the legs. And really pressing those hips out to the side. And the next time you're back up in a neutral tabletop, we want to reverse the circles. Go the opposite direction with the hips. And you choose the speed that works for you, the pacing that works for you. Some people like to do this slowly, some quickly. You decide what works. Let's do one more of these circles. And then when you're back up in your tabletop, we are going to bring the right knee forward between the hands, okay? And then you might be able to walk the foot of that right leg just slightly forward, just inching it forward a bit and bringing the knee back just slightly. Some people can bring it all the way here. That's not quite where I am. And you do want to keep it as close to, keep this heel of the right foot as close to the groin of the left or the hip flexor of the left leg as you need. This can be very intense and also not good if you have knee issues. Let me say that right now. If you have knee issues, lie on your back and do the figure 4. You're going to get the same stretch from the figure 4 on the back without as much stress on the knee joint. So figure 4, both soles of the feet are on the floor with the knees bent. You take one knee, bend it to the side and bring that ankle just above the opposite kneecap. Wrap the hands around the back of that thigh and draw that knee in. That's your figure 4 if you have fussy knees or a knee injury. Any old knee stuff. Maybe your knees just don't like this today. So that's your other option. And so when you come into this pigeon, those of you that are staying upright, lengthen that leg back behind you and take a little glance back there if you're able. And just try to make sure that it is straight back from hip all the way down to heel. We don't want it flopping out to one side or the other. This can be where you want to stay potentially, lengthening up through the crown and the front of the throat, opening up the chest and relaxing those shoulders down. You may even rock just a tiny bit on that. Rock those hips just a tiny bit and just see how that feels. If you'd like to come all the way down to the ground, you might come onto the forearms. You might bring a block over under the forehead on any setting. Sometimes this just feels so nice to put some pressure on that forehead with the block. And then another option, of course, is to come all the way down to the floor. You can make a little triangle shape with the hands to let the forehead rest right there if you like. And just rest into this hip opener, this pigeon. Again, breathing into any spots that feel intense. At any point, backing off if you feel that's what your body needs. And if you are here, again, drawing that breath into the intense places, using the breath to scoop up tension and release it out of the body on the exhale. Just an image of that process can sometimes help us really relax into the pose. On your next inhale, let's use the hands to press us back up to seated. Now roll over onto this right hip, drawing the weight onto that outside of that thigh. Press one hand, right hand down against the floor. Now this leg that's stretched out behind you, we're going to bring it around, swing it around gently, keeping this bottom leg right where it is. Now you may be able to bring this front foot all the way around so that the ankle is on the outside of the front knee. Or you might have to leave it on the inside of the front knee, just depending upon where your hips are today. And every day is different. So if you do want to stay with ankle on the inside of the knee, that's a-okay. You can even just sit right here and feel into this position, holding the front knee with the hands. You can also let the hands down to either side. If you're holding, this helps you to stay upright a little bit. If you want to come all the way into this pose for the full Matsyendrasana, you can bring that ankle on the outside of this knee that's resting on the ground. Raise the left arm up above the shoulder, lengthen up through the spine, and bring the hand of that left arm right behind the cheek of the bum there on the left side. Raising this right arm up, and this may be enough too. Maybe you just stay right here. If you want to add a little more, bring the right arm up above the shoulder and link it around the outside of that knee that's facing toward the ceiling. We do want the knee to be facing toward the ceiling, so that may mean you need to adjust slightly. And if you do hook the elbow on the outside of that knee, lengthen up through the crown and notice your shoulders. You want them to be in a straight line from side to side. We don't want one shoulder higher than the other. Take a big inhale here, and on the exhale, you can also glance over that back shoulder, bringing the twist all the way up into the neck. This can be an intense pose. If you need to back up, do so. Another option here too on this pose is to lengthen the bottom leg just out straight in front of you and bring the foot outside of the straightened knee that's on the ground. And then you can twist from there. So lots of options on this one to bring the intensity up or to take it down to where you need it to be. If you are in the full Matsyendrasana here, let's raise the left arm back up above the shoulder and around to come out, and the right arm around as well. And then from here, bring the weight forward. Now, I'll offer options here too. You can come forward and immediately bring the weight forward onto the hands and the knee of the bottom leg and just cross the knees over one another. From here, then we bring the hips back toward the mat. Again, this can be an intense stretch, and it may not be for your body today. One option, if the hips won't come all the way back, is to bring a block under the hips. Lift those hips up, and wow, that can really help you to come into this cow pose. Gobokhasan. If you wanted to do that through the tabletop position, you could come into the tabletop and you just bring that left knee in front of the right knee, snuggle the right knee up behind the left, and then we sit back. And once you get into that position, whether you have the block under your bottom, a blanket under your bottom, or you might be saying, no thank you ma'am, this won't work for my knees, then if this does not work for the knees, another option here is to simply cross the knees like this and do just a slight rock forward and back. And then you're training the hips to later come into that Gobokhasan. If you are in your Gobokhasan and you want to give the arches of the feet a little rub, you can put the hands on the feet and just rub the arches. Nice little massage there. I like to also think of bringing the weight of the upper body back toward the sits bones so that I can really concentrate the weight into the sits bones and not lean forward. I sometimes have a tendency to do that, and that allows me to make sure I'm sitting up nice and tall also. Just resting the hands right on that top knee if you like. If you really want to flex today, you might bring the palms behind the back to meet in a prayer position behind the back, really opening through the chest. That is only an option if your body says yes to that. And those of us who want to leave the hands right here on the knee, a-okay. Let's come forward with the hands and the knees. And then we're going to swap that out. So we're going to do pigeon on the other side. Come into your tabletop. Draw that left knee up between the hands. And then walk the right foot back, lengthening that leg. You can draw that left knee out to the side only as far as your body says is okay. Mine starts to say no thank you, so I bring it a little closer in and it's pointing more out in front rather than to the side of my mat. Actually, mine's pointing right to the front of my mat. This left heel is close to the right hip flexor. I'm pressing through my fingertips so that I can lengthen out through the crown. And I'm going to glance back and see that my heel is right behind my hip. And breathe into this position, lengthening through the throat, through the crown, lowering those shoulders away from the ears. Remembering to have a little smile. I get kind of serious sometimes and forget to smile. And then let's walk the fingers forward slightly, deciding where you would like the head to come, whether that's on the block or resting on the hands on top of the mat. Deciding what works best for your body today. And again, I've walked you through this now, but if you have a knee issue, this is where you want to be doing that figure 4 on your back with the left knee bent out toward the side, rather than coming into pigeon if you have knee issues. Just respect what your body needs, honor it. On any given day, it can be different. Remembering to breathe here. On the next inhale, let's use the hands to press us back up. And then we'll bring the weight of the body forward again onto this front knee. And bring the back knee, just snuggle it in behind the front knee. Or you can come right into tabletop and do the snuggle that way. And again, drawing the hips back if you need that block behind the bum to bring the earth up to you. Take that, maybe a blanket behind the bum. This can really help you to lengthen up through the spine. You're still getting some opening in the hips. If you want to remove the block or you don't need it, you can give that a try, see how that feels, and decide whether that works for you today. And this again can get intense, so we're going to draw those inhales into the hips. Scoop up the tension, draw it out. Give yourself a little love on the feet here with a little massage of the arches. Be good to yourself. You're here, you're taking care of your sweet body. That little massage is a reminder. What we're doing here is good work. We're going to come back up onto the hands and the knees. And then from that position, we're going to transfer to a lying down position. Get there slowly, getting your alignment just right on your mat, and lower yourself down. Should feel nice. Let's grab a strap or a belt or a towel even rolled up. Can work. A hand towel, a dish towel, just to provide some support. Bath towel. Just provide some support for the leg. We're going to wrap the strap right across the ball of the big toe, the ball of the foot, and just beneath the pinky toe. And then we'll lengthen that leg as much as we can. We want something that's kind of taut. So let's lengthen the left leg out from the hip on the ground. And then we're going to bring this strap or whatever other thing we're using for a prop, put it across from the ball of the foot under the big toe to the space right beneath the pinky toe. We don't want the toes on the strap at all. And then if you can, straighten that right leg. If you need a little bend in the knee, give it to yourself. Bring the two ends of your prop together and hold them between both hands, and then slide the hands closer to the body. We're going to let this leg fall over to the other side of the body. And you can roll onto the hip, the outside of the hip that's on the ground. And you may need to bend the knee a little bit here. You may need to bring the heel a little closer to the bottom of your mat. You may want to bring it closer to the top of your mat. You decide what's working for you today. You may even want to give it just a slight move from closer to the bottom of the mat to closer to the top. Just decide what's feeling good. And when you find a spot that you want to stay in, just kind of settle in there and let the stretch happen. Let gravity do its work. Just hold here for a moment, relaxing into it. And then we'll roll onto the back again, keeping that foot in that strap, and then we're going to just let that same leg fall open to the opposite side now, and use the hands and the arms to support that leg. Give yourself as much bend in the knee as you need, and allow the groin area to open up. Both of my hips are not on the ground right now. That's not really a concern. One is slightly off the ground, the left for me. That's okay. And if I want to bring it back down, I can always bring my leg up a little higher. But the idea here is really to open that inner thigh, inner groin area. And then let's raise the leg back up to center. We're going to bend the knee generously so we can move that strap from one leg to the other, one foot to the other rather. Placement's the same with the strap, ball of the foot, all the way across to the base, below the base of the pinky toe. Bring the ends together again, slide the hands down, and then let that leg fall over toward the left leg's falling toward the right side. Let gravity do its work. Notice the bend that you need in the knee. Whether you want that heel to be closer to the bottom of the mat or toes closer to the top, just find your spot and settle in. Just breathing here, letting the foot be pulled by gravity toward the floor. You're going to be up on, maybe on the side of that right hip. My elbow of my right arm is really pressing into the floor to give me some support. And then we can roll over onto the back once again, lifting that leg up from the hip. And then we're going to open it over toward the side. I'm close to a wall, so my foot's going to come in contact with the wall. If the same is for you, you can always move slightly away from the wall if you want, or you can use the wall to give your foot some support there. And then you won't need as much support from the strap and from your arms. Breathing here. Just noticing where we're feeling this. Let's bring that leg back up to center. bending the knee generously and allowing that strap to release. Place it down beside you. Bend the knees so soles of the feet are on the mat, and then open the knees wide so that the feet, soles of the feet, can come to touch one another. You might bring blocks under the thighs or the knees here if you want to provide some extra support to the legs, and really allow the legs to just relax open. Breathing into the belly. You might even place the hands on the abdomen to feel the abdomen rise and fall with the breath. Take another full breath cycle here. And then extend the legs out from the hips straight ahead on your mat, coming into your Shavasana. Palms of the hands are facing toward the sky. Take a few moments here to really soak up the benefits of your practice. Allow the body to completely relax into the mat. You may want to do a little scan of the body to let go of any tension that may be left. I especially sometimes like to focus on the face, where we can hold a lot of tension in the jaw, around the lips, the forehead, the eyes. I'm going to be here for a couple minutes. Just be and breathe. I'll let you know when it's time to come back to full awareness. On the next inhale, let's start to bring a little movement to the fingers and toes, the ankles and wrists. Maybe even rocking the hips from side to side. Let's lengthen out through the arms up above the shoulders, pressing through the palms, pressing through the heels, really lengthening the whole body here. And then rolling over onto one side, pillowing the head with the the head with the arm. Full breath cycle here with our eyes still closed. Let's press ourselves up into seated when we're ready. Using the hands to help us up. Grabbing that towel for behind the tailbone, or blanket for behind the tailbone if you find that helps you sit up tall. Coming into your easy seat with the eyes closed, noticing how it feels to sit in this position now versus when we first started our practice. Noticing any sensations in the body. Noticing our state of mind now versus when we first came to practice together. Bringing attention to the breath, pacing and depth of the breath. Let's bring the hands together at prayer position at the heart space. Take a big full belly breath, and on our exhale, we'll chant Om together. You may even notice there's a little difference in your Om from the beginning of practice to now. It's nice to notice these differences. And let's take this prayer position, bringing the thumbs to rest on the forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Bringing thumbs to rest on the lips. May we have peace in our words. And finally, thumbs back to the heart space. May we have peace in our hearts. The light in me acknowledges and honors the light in you, and I bow as I say Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. I hope this practice has brought some peace and tranquility into your day, and that you can carry some of that with you throughout the rest of your day and into all the spaces that you come into today. I appreciate you being here. Of course, if you would like to be notified when new practices are posted here, subscribe to the channel. If you like these practices, certainly give them a thumbs up. If you have comments or questions about the practice or yoga in general, certainly leave those in the comment section. And also, if you would like to follow other yoga tips, Ayurvedic tips, and just general yogic lifestyle information, you can follow me on Instagram at Find Bliss Yoga. Again, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to practice with you again soon. Namaste.